Now, both King Charles and Sir Keir Starmer are being forced to navigate questions about reparatory pay for slavery while at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa. Both say they acknowledge the issues of the past but are focused on the future. Well, let's get a view on this. We can speak now to Labour MP Bell Ribeiro-Addy, who's the chair of the All Party Parliamentary Group for Afrikan Reparations. A very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us. What do you think that the UK government should be doing when it comes to this issue of reparations for slavery?
Well, I think at the very least we should be having a discussion. I think the idea that we haven't been willing to entertain it, or I hear that that's slightly changed, it may come across as quite disrespectful to Commonwealth nations, particularly as we're meant to be a family of nations, no longer a group of countries ruled over by one country. So the idea that there would be some sort of veto or that the UK alone could dictate what the discussions were isn't right.
Well, yeah, and Sir Keir Starmer at this meeting has said that slavery is abhorrent, but he said it's important to talk about today's challenges like climate change and boosting trade. What do you make of how he's handled this?
Well, absolutely. Today's challenges are extremely serious, but most of those nations that are calling for reparations, actually all of them are calling for that are calling for reparations, recognise that they are unable to meet today's challenges when we haven't completely addressed what's happened in the past. I know that there has been a quantification of what should be paid in reparations, and people just need to realise that is it's important when you're making a claim to quantify it. However, there's no amount of money that could fully recompense for the horrors of enslavement and colonialism. But we do have to do things to try. And moving forward, we have to understand that these particular circumstances of human history have held these nations back. And all they're trying to do is get on an equal footing. And they cannot do that. And they cannot properly move forward until certain things have been addressed from the past.
Well, yes, and how important is that issue of financial recompense, the issue of money? Because some estimates have put on this, they've suggested it could be many trillions of pounds. And is that ever going to be realistic that a UK government would offer that kind of money? I mean, especially in straitened times.
Well, people keep focusing on the figures, and I understand why. They hear these figures and they get quite scared. But it's important in any claim that you make a quantification, and they have, and they've done that to ensure that people understand the scale and the impact, the economic impact in particular, of what Britain's actions has had on those particular countries. But you have to remember, financial reparations are not the only way to make reparations. And actually, if we gave any of these countries money without first addressing some of the other issues that also could serve as reparations, is not necessarily going to make a difference. So if you give a country that is already steeped in debt, that is struggling in terms of climate resilience money, they would spend that money potentially on debt and other issues that they wouldn't have had if they weren't put in those economic circumstances by colonialism, that extraction of, both labour and resources from their particular country. So we have to address the international institutions, those historic institutions that hold them in those particular positions. The fact, for example, these countries don't have the same access to financial credit in the way that the UK does. The fact that trade is particularly unfair for certain countries. The fact that, again, they've been made to pay debts with unfair additional charges, and continue to be paying those over and over again.
How important is an apology, or are politicians reluctant to apologise because they think that makes them liable for some kind of payment?
Well, I think the reason why they're not apologising is perhaps because of the liability, but a lack of an apology speaks to an absolute lack of respect. If we considered these countries our equals, we would apologise to them. We would see that it was important to show them that, not only have we done something wrong, but we see that they are important enough and worthy of our full and complete remorse. And we have to remember that beyond the moral arguments, and the moral arguments are very, very important, we all have a responsibility for the economic circumstances that we are benefiting from, whilst they are quite frankly not. We have left our largest trading partner in Europe. that is Europe rather, and we are going around the world looking for friends. And, the Commonwealth of Nations, that those countries should be the ones, the ones with which we have a shared history that we should be able to make the best trade deals with. But at the moment, that's not happening. And we're even seeing countries like India and South Africa, who are amongst the largest, the fastest growing economies in the world, preferring to go to BRICS than to the CHOGM meeting, showing that they'd rather go where they have respect and where they think they're going to have the most benefit. So these countries are rising not because of anything the UK has done to help them, but in spite of what the UK has done. And I don't want a situation where moving forward, people are looking at our country with resentment and not necessarily making, the proper deals and having the proper relationships with us that they should.
Well, Bell Ribeiro-Addy, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for sharing your views on this subject this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.